Hey, how you doing? I have a lot of things I want to say. Um, but first I want to go ahead and say hi. I'm sorry that we haven't been posting a lot of videos. I have lessons planned that I want to shoot and I want to put up on YouTube to make sure you guys are being fed, or getting the things that you need from God, at least on my end, because, I want to continue to plant positivity into your lives. I want to continue to feed your ministry. Not just ministry doesn't just mean to minister to other people. Well, Jesus came, and he came not to be ministered to, but to minister. We as the church, we as people of God, as Christians, as brothers and sisters, we do indeed have to still minister to each other and deliver one another and love one another, because we're not Christ. We're not the Holy Lamb, the spotless Lamb. We have problems, and we're messy. Sometimes we're uncaring. Sometimes we're incredibly loving. Sometimes we're brave and helpful. So these are the things we need to, strive for, to be like Jesus, to be the best of ourselves. So I want to do that, every day, and I want to make sure I tell all of you that you're cared for, that you're loved, and that anything internal or external that comes against you, those things can be banished. Those things can be defeated in God's name. So I just want to take a moment and tell you, please, in the comments of this video, I want you to just pour out your heart, pour out your thoughts. Just go ahead and leave comments about what's going on in your lives. I'm going to take the time on this video to go to each comment and create a response. And I just want to read through how you guys are doing. I want to have a mental health check where I just kind of check on you. And if you don't have anything super crazy going on or anything personal that you'd like to share or feel uncomfortable, that sort of thing, share a praise report. Share something good that you've done for somebody, share something good that somebody's done for you, share something good that God's done for you, and really all those things I named are good things God has done. Because as he works through us, we find our strength and our purpose in him. And if you're not talking about God, if you're not finding yourself in him, then life really isn't worth living. And God is the only being that I can confidently say that, while finding yourself in other things of this earth, or finding yourself in other people, relationships, or work, or mentorships, or those sort of things, you need to have some level of individuality. And while yes, God gives you those things, it's finding yourself in God that's truly rewarding. God loves all of you so much. And, I love every type of comment, even if it's a comment about how this video wasn't helpful or this video wasn't needed. I want you to be honest with yourself and honest with me, honest with God, because it's only when your problems are really out in front of you, when you can really put them down at your feet and get ahead of them, that you're ever going to actually make progress. If you're still carrying around that heavy weight of whatever it is on your back, it's only going to slow you down. So I just want to share his love with you and let you know that I'd love to see comments about how you guys are all doing. And this last year was hard. This upcoming year, it's going to be a lot better, I'm thinking, even with the things that have us that may be difficult. If you're living in America, or if you're living in the UK, in New Zealand, my heart goes out to any people that are suffering because of the earthquakes or natural disasters. For the people in Australia and in California who have to we're dealing with the fires last year and may still be dealing with them right now in the spring. My heart goes out to every person who's going through an individual struggle, a countrywide struggle. And just know that the things of this world have fallen into darkness, and whatever happens is not because of God or his vengeful nature. In fact, God made binding promises that he would not destroy the earth again, and that he would not kill his people again. So just know that he is not against you, and that he's for you. And for those who do know that, spread that love and that knowledge to other people. Let's make sure that the wide view of Christians is that we are loving, kind, and non-judging. Because I found that so many non-believers and even people who are in the church find that Christians are judgmental, hurtful, and just aren't caring. And I really want to change that, because we should be emulating Jesus. Jesus wasn't hanging out in beautiful churches, not going out, not loving, not caring, not being accepting. He was with the drug users and the thieves and the people who were the money launderers and the murderers and the demon possessed and the sickly and the lepers, and he was with the outcasts, the poor and the downtrodden. So just remember that those are the sorts of people that he's coming to, but also that he offers the same hand to the wealthy and the well-off, and everybody's welcome. Okay, so that's the beginning of the video. I just wanted to kind of get that through. I don't really think I'm going to edit this video. So let me just talk about lots of things that are on my mind. I honestly think that if you look at my very first video, which is my testimony video, the recent videos that I posted, where it's been almost 2 months now, and things have completely changed in my everyday life. And it's strange because it's only through the eyes of other people and through my interactions that I'm truly seeing that change, but also my mind is clear. It's empty of any destructive thoughts or impulses. I don't have constant I used to have so much noise going on in my head at all times. I couldn't stop these dark or painful thoughts, or just this noise, loud and unending, and it wouldn't let me have any moment of peace, any moment of silent contemplation. I constantly had so much going on. And now that's absent. Now I have so much peace, so much clarity. The only struggle I have anymore is that sometimes my mind can feel cramped. It can feel like it's buzzing, like there's an electric storm inside my head. Like it's shocking the place between my skull and my brain. I think that's the presence of God touching me, maybe. The finger of God running along, tugging on the puppet string that's attached to my soul. Gently reminding me that his hand's there waiting, for me to reach out for if I need him. And I always need him. So I'm always reaching out. In my testimony, I believe I talk about the dreams God gave me. But I don't know how much in depth I really went with you guys about those dreams. The first dream is I almost can't remember it, but I can when I think. But that's not the important dream. The important dream is the second dream. And it's really not even a dream. I almost consider it a journey through time, through space, through a fold of reality that seems so distant and so impassable, but once you move through it, it's thin like wet tissue paper. I saw something that is not only light years away, but years and years from now. I saw the planet that'll be the Earth after this one. And I saw the city that will be the New Jerusalem. Now, if you want to know what I'm talking about, read chapters 20, 21, and 22 of Revelation. Those are the last 3 chapters. And this will reveal to you that after this earth and after the 1,000-year reign following the tribulation, there is a new Jerusalem, a new earth, a new kingdom where we're not just going to be spending our time hailing God in heaven. Yes, that is a way of praising God. But we are actually going to be on a new planet, in a place without sin, in a place where God's throne, instead of being in the heavens, will be laid down on the earth among us. where he will watch over us, and where our work of our hands and our minds, our mouths and our hearts, like our passion and our will, those things will glorify God in the traditional and in ways that you'd be surprised, because we are made in the image of God. Man is created from the image of God. So obviously our ingenuity, our exploratory nature, our passion, our love of knowledge and truth, those pure, good, godly things, all of those things will carry over. All of those things which have been turned to evil, laid in darkness, desecrated, fallen, and misshapen, those things will be formed anew, rebranded, rekindled, repurposed. And we will bring passion and love and knowledge, learning, and God is the best teacher. Just imagine this city, this wonder of a new planet, where all things are made new and good once again, and where we will be entertained, we will be loved. There will be no sadness and no pain, no suffering anymore. And we will have a perfect king who sits not above us, but with us, same level, who loves the people, who's incorruptible, unchanging, and yet ever changing, ever moving, ever loving. It's a sight that is so, it's splendiferous. It's just amazing. And it's a true definition of utopia, because no action needs a reciprocating action. There's no government. There is a king, and that king is without reproach. And he's not, and everybody is eternal. None of us age, none of us die. And so all of the issues that would occur from corrupt leaders or other sorts of issues kind of disappear once you actually look at the things that will be true. That there is one set population, that we live for an eternity, that there is no limit to what we have, no limit to what we can give, and a leader who is a perfect king without reproach, that will always make a decision in the best interest of himself and his people. And basically, this creates a utopia, an idea that doesn't exist on this earth, that has fallen into darkness. It's just a wonderful idea. And it's a wonderful truth, because it's going to happen. And I saw it. The book I'm writing, I have descriptions written down of sites that even with the words I'm using, we're still not even close to what it was actually like. It was a sight that without the eyes you were afforded, the new eyes, it would be indecipherable to the human eye what exactly it was. It would be as if you looked upon a word on a piece of paper, and yet you couldn't decipher it. You couldn't make out what it was. It wasn't in a different language. It wasn't written in the wrong order. It wasn't with any letters you didn't know. And yet, for some reason, to your eye, it was completely unimaginable. That combination of letters, that intonation of sound, that character inscribed on paper was somehow a completely unnatural and different being to you. But with these new unnatural eyes, with this new spiritual comprehension, the unnatural becomes natural, the indecipherable decipherable. And there's just a flow of understanding, things that are just not possible here. It's majestic. I was in that place for maybe 10 hours, because I slept a good long time that night. But I spent nearly 24 hours there in the city. And also around 2,000 years outside the city, around 2,400 and some odd years. Now, everything you're hearing right now, I am positive there is the healthiest sprinkling of doubt on that donut you're eating. You know, those sprinkles are on that glazed donut of misconstrued information and that fluffy round pastry of he doesn't know what he's talking about. Sorry for my food analogy, excuse me. But it's so understandable. And the funny thing is that if you do believe what I'm talking about, like, thank you. That's heartwarming, and I want you to believe it. I want God right now to touch my words that are entering this microphone and being transmitted to all of the speakers that are listening right now. And I want you to feel a resounding push upon your heart, a resounding niggle in your mind, a resounding warmth on your ears. And I want you to know in your soul that this is true. That God is revealing things to not just me, but hundreds and thousands of people. That his kingdom is coming. And that we are in the midst of an outcry, in the midst of a revival that will bring about the end of times. Because while we, the church, have been sleeping, we have been neglecting our duty to deliver the Christians of this world, to deliver and bring the good news to the unsaved, and to herald in the kingdom of God. Because he has set the date and he has set the time. But it is us that must make it a reality. Jesus said so himself. His job is complete, and when the time comes, his job will be apparent again. But until the beginning of that tribulation, until the rapture of the church, we have a job. And we haven't been doing it. But we're going to. I'm making that step. I'm hoping you all make that step with me. And I'm hoping you don't have faith in this, you who don't believe me, you who don't have the love of God. I want this to be a message of love, and I want this book I'm writing to be a love letter that'll let you know that the Christian community isn't hard, cold, and uncaring, that God himself is love, and feeling love and caring moving within you is to feel the movements of God. Okay. Memory is an interesting thing. The human brain has billions of neurons. I think about 1 billion. Neurons being the neurological cells that fire, electrical impulses between and inform synapses within the brain. And there's a chart, there is a mapping of these cells in certain sections of the brain. Now, there are two types of memory. There are short-term memories, memories that have created strong connections that last for a short period within the brain before being forgotten. Now, those short-term memories that are learned, forgotten, and relearned, that second strengthening causes, or some people hypothesize, that is what creates a long-term memory, along with a very significant thing in your life that you deem irreplaceable. Long-term memory is stored in the space between these neurons in multiple places within your brain. But most scientists believe it's within the hippocampus that these long-term memories are stored. But they've also found out that because of the billions of synapses, and because it is the conjunction and interaction of these synapses, these neurons, that when they move and arc together, these conjunctions of neurons form the memories and the lasting memories, that our brain holds around 3,000 terabytes of memory, which is around 3 million gigabytes. 3 million gigabytes, which is billion megabytes. We have so much information, and some scientists have even said that the interchangeability and the conjunction of these neurons is so elaborate and so complex that we could actually have nearly unlimited memory. And then there's even a further thought that long-term memory may not even be stored in the brain, that it may be stored in the energy within the matter of the brain, or even within the matter of the body, that memory floats like an ethereal presence in your body. And it's all so close to being true. When you're in this new earth that I experienced, I learned from the people there that memory is transferable, because how energy cannot be destroyed, but it can also be transferred, copied, transferred, replicated. And so there are these markings. So when you move to the new heavens, the new earth, the new Jerusalem, you receive your new name and the marking known as the name of your city and the name of your king and certain things like that on your hand and on your head. When you touch an opposite person's head to your marking hand to the marking on your head, they can transfer memory and information instantly between you and themselves, or between themselves and you. This is because long-term memory is not stored within the body, but within the soul. The soul is a replica of the body in the preternatural. Preternatural being the supernatural plane. The supernatural plane is a plane of existence which is invisible, and it exists without time. It exists in conjunction of space, but does not exist within time. Okay? Because of this is the place where spirits, principalities, angels, and God exist, right? But God actually exists in a few different places. But God the Father exists in this fourth dimensional place, a place outside of time where he can peer within time's flow. As the other fourth dimensional beings, the beings in the air, as they also can, right? Us on the first heavens, we exist within that third dimension that is subject to time. In the second dimension, there are the beings that exist without time. That's where our souls exist. And though they call it the air, that space is actually the same as the space that we inhabit. And so they are layered atop one another so closely, and yet the difference is that while we exist within time, they exist without time. And so they can inhabit the same space as us because of that. God truly exists in the next dimension, which is within imagination. He exists within the future space of time, while existing within the present state of time and the past state of time, while existing without time. Because of that, he's in a dimensional plane that's so much more difficult to understand. It's like if there was a door, a hallway, and the hallway was set with consecutive doors. Each door was a different place. Each door is a different fold of reality, a different dimension. And so if you pass through the doors continue to get smaller. When you get to the place where God exists behind, where he truly exists in his entirety, the door is so small that you cannot fit through. And so you can bludgeon yourself against it, you can push yourself against it, you can peek through the door like it was a keyhole. And you can glean a portion, a misting of the mystery. For God, I've discovered, is 1/3 exclamation marks, 2/3 question marks. But that's another reason I love it, because I am constantly trying to figure out how to get through that door. And God wants you to search for him. but not to search for him in the search of knowledge, because that would be to place knowledge above God, but to revel in the knowledge that comes with the search for God out of love, because you want to touch him, you want to be closer to him. And he revels in that love, and you revel in your closest to him. And those things that are affected and come to you in the natural pursuit of that, those are your blessings, those are your rewards, but you have to have the intentions of love. Memory is within the energy that is the soul. The mind is like a fulcrum. It is a focal point where we are connected. And in that space is how the spiritual realm affects the physical and how the physical affects the spiritual. Because if things affect your body or your mind, so do those things affect your soul. And as those spiritual things and those things affect your soul, bind your soul, limit your soul, injure your soul, those things can come into your mind, can harm your body, can crush you. The weight, it's crushing sometimes. So many neurotic impulses, things of the mind that crush the body, ailments of the body that hurt the soul. All of these things can be attributed to bindings of the soul in the preternatural realm, in the supernatural, the spiritual place, this fourth dimension, the second heavens. Anyway, so long-term memory, short-term memory is stored very physically in the brain, and it disappears over time. Long-term memory can be stored not only in the brain, but in the soul. During my 2,000 years in that place, I stored a great deal of memory. I have hundreds and thousands of years, months and months and months, days and days and days, hours upon hours upon hours of memory. It's like a large ring, and on that ring are other rings, and they just have a Rolodex of photos and cards that have things written down and pictures taken, and I can look at those things and access them. But there's almost a barrier, because that level of understanding, that level of transitive and transformative information that is so easily accessible, where time is negligible, where memory is so unappreciated, is so arbitrarily giftable, that when I return to the being I am now, that when I return to the place I am with the limitations I have in this present time, which is my only time, while in that moment I exist in the presence of God, in the light that touches all things, where no shadow or no misunderstanding exists. There I have access to things that only God can give me, but here there is a cloud, there is a barrier, and so my mind gets cramped. There will be times where I cannot understand the place I am in, where the room feels so flat, where depth almost ceases to exist, where I look like, when I move my hand out in front of me, as though I'm being printed from a printer, like I am a piece of paper lying beneath two sheets of paper. And yet there are other moments where that comprehension returns to me in these brief sparks of amazing glorificity, where I can see further than the eye could see with my eyes shut. deeper, where I could close my eyes and I can make out every single grain of sand that ever existed between every stone that made up the tile, that made up the granite of a countertop, where I could see the fossilized remains of earthworms, where I could see what trees blocks of wood came from, where I could see what blocks of wood were laminated falsehoods, where I could see that the place I'm standing, the house I'm in, was once one thing or another, a field, another house, a gravel pit, a flaming desicrus. Is desicrus a word? I don't know. Where I can look inside skin and peel it apart layer by layer. But I'm not really looking at skin. I'm looking at the layers that are rubbing like sheets made of satin. The layers that are reality. Excuse me. The layers that are reality itself. My mind cramps. It aches. And my bones feel out of place. I just feel so tired and just weak because this isn't my body. Sometimes I'll be writing and suddenly I can't feel my hands. My hand isn't my hand, and my thoughts aren't my thoughts. My eyes aren't my eyes. It becomes grainy and static, like a picture on an old cable television, on a barely see. The light entering my eyes isn't enough. I lived in a place where I could see in the dark with no light at all. Pitch black with no light to enter my eyes, and I could see the color of the soul all the time. I could think, and my hands would already have moved before I could think it. Everything was responsive, everything was minimal, everything was painless, smooth, and everything was perfect. I was always prosperous, I was always correct. And I was correct because my gift had been given. Because my time was always at the perfect time. And now I play a waiting game. I play a waiting game where I can't predict the time, only God can. And he knows the perfect time to speak to me, and he knows the perfect way to get my attention. And he knows when to place his hand upon my head and when to hover right above it. Because where that world is life, this world is like a prologue. This world is like a beta of a game. This world is like, it's like at one point it was a cube with sturdy walls and a top and a bottom. And then man smushed the cube. He smushed it down, and now it's this flat parallelogram where none of the sides and vertices exactly match up where they need to go. And if they match up, they're on opposite sides of each other. But in that world, it is a perfect cube where every side, every vertice, every point is equidistant. It is parallel or perpendicular to one another. Things meet where they are supposed to meet. Things pass where they are supposed to pass. And things are what they are supposed to be. And it makes sense. So sometimes I reach into that cloudy barrier and I look at those things. I've lived "200 lifetimes. And And still I don't feel like I've really done anything yet. And while that's frustrating right now for the me who's here, isn't that exciting? That there'll still be so much that you'll want to do. My biggest terror was that I would become bored with existing, that a life would have been more meaningful to live shortly and well. And yet, God is God. He is good and gracious and merciful. He is ferocious, deserving of your fear, deserving of your penitence, deserving of your obedience. And he is magnificent. And he is loving. He is love and joy. Last night I had a dream where Jesus performed surgery on my arms. They feel like brand new. Like I can't really go into all of it. The dream was long and this video is already long enough. But he takes care of such minimal things. Just not even because I asked, but because I complained. He told me complain no more. That the swelling and the aching of my arms would be gone. And I watched him do it. I watched with a combination of spiritual and flesh eyes as he completed something in my soul. And it rushed forth. That memory rushed into my mind through energy. And my body believed it was real, and so I'm better. Because he is good. The universe is made up of energy and matter. The universe is made up of space and time. Energy, matter, space and time, and the forces between those spaces which hold the laws, which hold the cosmos together. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Energy is transferable between matter, and it can inhabit matter. So therefore, matter cannot be created nor destroyed. That's true in all cases. But it's also not true because of God. Or maybe it's not true based on where you're standing. I watched people go to hell. I watched God transform them into emptiness. I watched him strip their spirits from their souls. I watched him transform that energy and release it into himself. I watched something that came from the Lord God become one with him again. And while there was a terrifying beauty, there was also a deep sadness in that whole action. Don't think matter cannot be created or destroyed. I think God doesn't want to destroy. He doesn't want to erase something. He wants it to continue existing. He wants it to continue existing within himself. For you came from him, birthed like a mother births a child. So you return to him willingly or painfully. He loves you so much. So just think about that and comment. Let me know what you think. I tried to be as descriptive as I could. I tried to explain as much as I can with my own thoughts. But my mom always tells me when I try to explain certain things to her when she's curious, it's just a bit hard to wrap your head around, and I agree. I was there. And my head sometimes can't wrap around it. Of course, I sometimes think that's a consequence of where I am. You feels torn down and shredded, feels pulverized under the weight of man, of the world, of yourself. You can be built back up, inside out, right side in. God is a good God. He is a glorious God. He's deserving of your fear. He's deserving of your praise. He's deserving of your love. And if you do these things unashamed, He will give to you without measure. He loves you dearly, believer or not. I love you all, brothers and sisters. Have a good night. Thanks for listening to my long talk. I hope you got something out of it. I did. Just please comment. I want to talk to all of you.